Hey guys, so first I want to say that I'm really sad to be missing our last meeting, but it has been an honor to serve on the craft team for you guys this year. Now today we have a really fun craft planned. It's a trinket shell dish. Everybody needs a shell. I think that's pretty obvious. You should have a bag at your table full of napkins. Our shells are small enough to where I really believe that you can do more than one shell with each napkin. So if everybody's in love with the bows at your table, then there should be enough. If not, check out another table. Now, before we move forward with this craft, there is something very, very, very important that you cannot forget, otherwise you're gonna be left with a mess of a shell dish. Every single one of these napkins is double layered. Pick your napkin and then at the very corner, carefully separate this double layer. This is trash. Throw it away. Please do not skip this step. The first time I made one of these, I did that and that shell dish did not turn out. After you pick out your shell, and your napkin, and you've removed that second layer, what you need to do is a practice, before any Mod Podge gets involved, a practice of placing it in and having the picture go where you want it to go on the shell. And if you don't do this practice, you could end up doing something like this on accident, because a lot of the shells have a deep indentation right here. And if you don't practice shoving your image into that indentation and then smoothing it out and seeing where it's going to end, it can cause some problems. If you're sharing a napkin with somebody, at that point, that is when you can make a cut to separate the napkin. Next up, we're adding Mod Podge to the inside portion, not the outside. The whole thing, and especially along the edges. Now, this is the other very, very important thing that you have to pay attention to and not miss. This layer of Mod Podge needs to touch every part of this, yes, but it needs to be very thin, and I'll explain why. It has to dry after the napkin goes down on top of it, and that should only take about 5 minutes. If you add goops and goops of Mod Podge, it will not dry. It will take forever. And then when we go back to do a second layer later, your napkin will pool and break. I have now Mod Podged this whole thing, but I want you to see how thin it is. So super thin. On every single part, there's no clumps or globs. On to the next part. We're going to put our beautiful napkin onto here. You will thank me that you did a practice round squishing it in. I'm gonna get the picture just right where I want it. Get it just where I want it at the top. So I press it against the top of the shell. I can feel it, you can't see it, I'm so sorry. You can see it back there. And then do that center little divot first. Squish it into that, and then from there, fill out these edges. Now your napkin may bend a little bit, that is to be expected. And you can push it around to try to get it to bend where you want it to. But remember, it is a napkin, it is delicate, so there is a likelihood that it could rip. So just be very, very gentle with it as you go. Pulling it up just a little bit, getting the creases to somewhere where I'm happy with them, you know, because there's bound to be them since the shell dish isn't flat. After I have it down into my shell like this, you can kind of see the creases. You should have erasers on your table. You can push the eraser down into the divot to make sure that the napkin goes all the way down. And this should not break it because you're not rubbing, you're simply pushing it down into those beautiful shell grooves. Okay, at this point, you can see all of my pretty grooves in here. Let it dry for a minute or two. If you feel like, oh no, maybe I put too much Mod Podge, or oh no, I want this to dry a little bit more, lovely Rebecca has hair dryers in the back. Go snag you a hair dryer and make sure it's dry before we move on to the next step. Now is actually when we're going to cut our shell out. I like to flip it this way so that I can see the shell and then cut the napkin. Here is my shell, all cut out. And I want to point out to you really quick too that my edges, you can see here, this might bother some of you, but you can see here how the napkin isn't perfectly cut with that edge. You're not going to be able to do that with scissors, and it's not even something you need to worry about, because look, what I do after I finish cutting is just fold it down a little bit, because we're going to put Mod Podge over top of this again. And look, now you can't even see it. It's Mod Podge time. Just get a good amount on your brush. Mod Podge is white, but it dries clear. So you're gonna put it over, and it's gonna look like you're putting white paint over your design, but do not worry, it will not dry that way. So you're gonna use a lot more Mod Podge this way, not heaps of it, but much more than you did before. You wanna go and get all of these edges too. If there's any parts like this that you feel like it sticks up, you can stick a little extra Mod Podge under there at this point, more than you would have at first, and then press it down. Here my shell is covered with that second layer of Mod Podge. I literally just put my brush down. So as you can see, it's not heaps, but it's not as clear as the napkin was originally. It will dry clear. You're gonna let this sit and dry for 5 to 10 minutes. The last, and I think the most gratifying step, is to put the beautiful golden rim on the outside of your shell. Now you have a little bit of a luxury there. I'm using a paintbrush and some paint because it's what I have at home. But you guys should have paint pens available at your table. Take your paint pen and just do all the edges of your shell. I would say start thin, and then you can make the edge as thick as you like. To also get these little front edges too. You don't want it to go down underneath to the bottom, but with that paint pen, you want to get this front side too. If you want to make it so that that gold paint never chips, wait for it completely to dry and then add just a tiny bit of Mod Podge over the edges again, not over the whole shell. I actually don't bother to do that because, and this is not something we have provided for you, but if you want your shell, which will last a very, very long time, but if you want it to be a forever thing for you, if you want to keep it forever, I recommend going to Hobby Lobby. This is called Crystal Clear Acrylic Coating. It is in the fancier like painter's paint section in their cabinet, and it was $8.99. But if you spray this over the top of your shell, it will never die unless you drop it and break it. Otherwise, I would say just put some Mod Podge over that edging and you're good to go. Don't wrap these up in tissue paper or anything, even when they're dry, because when Mod Podge gets warm, even though it's dry, it tends to get a little pudgy, and it's only sticky to things like paper, tissue paper, anything like that. So it shouldn't be an issue for any of your jewelry or trinkets that you put inside of it. But if you want it to last forever, ever, never get sticky, never have any problems, go pick you up some of this and give it a good spray down. After all is said and done, here is the finished product. I hope that you have the most wonderful summer. And as I said before, it's been an honor to serve you and be with you. And I wish you all the best. Bye.